It is a completely natural response to defend ourselves, whether we're faced with a physical threat or whether we're being judged, criticized, ridiculed. We want to defend ourselves. We have this innate urge and instinct to protect ourselves from any form of pain, be it physical or emotional. Well, in this video, I want to delve into the world of defensiveness, why people become defensive, and when defensiveness can start to hurt you instead of help you. Before we get into it, I'm Desh, I'm a qualified counsellor, and I work with clients in this area where we look at defensiveness and when it starts to become too much or when it starts to interfere with their ability to regulate emotions, to process what's going on, and to be with and sit with what is happening in the present moment, the contentment. Defensiveness can often lead us to being avoidant of what is going on or making excuses for what's happening in order to either blame someone else or to avoid feeling the difficult emotions we may be experiencing. Now, being defensive is a completely normal reaction. It's normal to want to protect ourselves, whether we want to protect our honor, our reputation, or shield others from the vulnerability that we're carrying. Defensiveness is an important mechanism that we all have to protect ourselves and our self-worth. The issue becomes when we become defensive in situations where we ought to actually take feedback on board. We ought to consider what that person is saying because they may be making a valid point that's going to help us in the longer term in terms of our behavior, in terms of connecting with others, in terms of our relationships at work, our ability to function optimally. If you're experiencing defensiveness, it's a completely natural phenomenon or process, but sometimes it can become habitualized, which basically means we use it automatically without realizing as a habit to deal with any kind of difficult or stressful or awkward situations. And there may be other ways to deal with those situations. Now, there are a number of things that we do or we experience that indicate when we're becoming defensive. So the first one is physical signs. We may feel a tension or tightness in our chest or in our stomach. We may feel our jaws clench, our teeth grinding, our fists clench. So essentially our body is physiologically reacting to whatever situation is causing us tension and is making us become defensive. We're kind of getting ready to fight, essentially. All the muscles are contracting. We're not feeling relaxed. We're not feeling loose. We are feeling very tense. That is one sign when you may be becoming defensive. Then there are the emotional signs. I need to fight back. I can't let him or her have the last word. I've got to win this argument. You may be feeling misunderstood and you feel you have to explain your actions or you have to clarify what happened. So there are a number of situations that can cause us to become defensive, and we therefore end up feeling that we have to explain our actions or we have to clarify the situation. We feel attacked or judged or hurt or angered by the fact that someone may have got the situation wrong, or we feel that we are being put down in some way and we have to win the argument back. So defensiveness manifests physically and emotionally, but it can also manifest verbally. So one example is interrupting someone when they're saying something you don't like to hear. Maybe they're criticizing you about the job you did at work. Maybe they're criticizing you for something you said over the dinner table. Maybe it's a member of your family. When you interrupt them and you don't let them finish, is that because they've got it wrong? Or is it because you don't feel comfortable with what they're telling you? You don't feel comfortable with what they're sharing. So in order to understand whether you're being defensive or not, you need to assess what's the reality of the situation, what happened. Then you need to understand, how am I feeling? How am I reacting to this? What's going on for me? Once you have a clear indication of both pictures, both sets of understanding, you can then use that information to determine, am I being defensive? Am I reading too much into this? Am I feeling hurt or criticized? Do I feel under threat in any way? Is that why I'm perhaps not letting that person talk? Is that why I'm feeling tense? Or has that person got it completely wrong? have they got the wrong end of the picture, and I just need to make sure they understand exactly what's happened. So you've got to be honest with yourself when you kind of comes to realize, am I being defensive or not? So there are certain situations where being defensive is important because it's an act of self-preservation. However, as with all emotions, we can sometimes go to the other extreme where we're overusing a certain strategy that's, while it's intended to help protect us in certain situations, maybe without realizing we're using it a lot of the time. So therefore, being defensive is having an impact on our relationships. It's having an impact on our ability to relate to others, to connect with others. It may be fueling cycles of misunderstanding or negative patterns of behavior between you and someone you care about. When you're defensive, you are creating a distance emotionally to the person you're trying to connect with. So therefore, if it's in a particularly loving relationship or a personal relationship, it's going to have an impact on your ability to emotionally connect and unite, because you are being defensive and you are not letting that person in. You are shutting them out. You're keeping them at arm's distance. So there are certain situations where we may feel defensive, but it doesn't mean that's the right reaction to have. That's where we have to look inward. And there are a couple things that I want to share now of what you can do. First of all is to pause and take a breath. If you notice yourself having tension, if you notice yourself having these thoughts that they've got it wrong, I need to win the argument. If you notice these kind of emotions festering within you, just stop and take a breath and understand what's going on within me right now. There's no judgment. What's just happened and why has it triggered me the way it has, emotionally, physically, whatever it might be. Clearly something's happened. So why am I feeling this way? So taking time, grounding yourself through breath work if you need to, but the most important question to ask is, why am I feeling this way? What's just happened? Now, when you ask yourself that question, you will raise your current state of being into consciousness. You become aware of it. So when you're aware of it, you can now have the power to decide and choose how you act. If you're not aware of how you feel emotionally, chances are the emotions are going to do the talking for you. But if you're aware, like, I'm angry, I'm frustrated because this person said this, you now have a choice. Do I run with that anger and frustration? Or do I recognize that's just a part of me? And I need to assess, is there any truth in what this person said? Is there any truth to it? Because once you understand the reality of what they said, once you really kind of review and break down what's happened, you'll be in a better position to respond from a more autonomic place, from a genuine place, rather than a place of immediate emotion. Another strategy is to shift to curiosity. Be curious, why do I feel defensive? What's triggering me? And also be willing to listen to the person giving you feedback or talking to you. Like, what place are they coming from? Where are they coming from? Why are they telling me this? Clearly, it's having an impact on them. Let me try and hear their side of the story. So become curious about how you're feeling, become curious about your thoughts, and become curious about what they're telling you. Now, it's very difficult to remain curious and happy when you're feeling angry or, difficult emotions, which is why emotional regulation and your ability to regulate yourself emotionally is going to help you in these situations, because you'll be more familiar and more comfortable to sit with those difficult emotions and process them. So it's all a journey. Don't beat yourself up if you can't get to that stage yet. It's a journey. It takes practice. A final strategy I want to share, and this is quite a practical one, is using I statements. Own your feelings. Say, I feel angry when. So if someone says something to you and gives you feedback that you don't like, it's very easy from that emotion we experience to, ridicule them, say you're wrong, or you misunderstood, or you don't know what you're talking about. This is kind of a common defensive reaction. Instead say, when you're telling me this, I feel angry. I feel angry because, and you explain why you feel angry. So there is this ownership of how you're feeling, and you're communicating to the person, I'm the one feeling angry, I'm the one feeling the discomfort. So I'm not going to blame you, but I want to let you know why I'm feeling angry, so we can at least talk about this, what's going on here. So really owning how you feel is a really important step in combating defensiveness and allows others around you to dialogue, to enter into a dialogue with you and communicate with you, rather than deal with your defensive persona, which is probably only going to lead to even more conflict and no resolution. Comment below if there's a time where you become defensive and whether you struggle, and if there's any strategies that you use that help you. I'd be really curious to hear about that. Please like and subscribe to this video because there's going to be more coming out soon.